Hi there, welcome to my studio. Today I'm going to be drawing a cichlid fish, this underwater scene, and I'm going to be using this reference material from Pixabay free reference online site, and I'm going to be using a pastel matte surface, which is a great surface for all kinds of pastel mediums. It's a cellulose fibre, unlike a sanded paper, and it has lots of grit, therefore lots of grab, but it doesn't have any fallout or dust, so it's really easy to work with. And for the background I'm going to be using these little pan pastels, and these are great because they can be applied with some sponges, small sponges or big sponges, and they come in a wide variety of colors, or they can be blended with each other as you go, so they're really versatile and I love using them. I use them all the time and they last absolutely ages. And I'm going to be using some Carbothello Stabilo pencils. These come in a box of 60, but they also can be blended, and I love these. They're really smooth, not at all chalky, lots of pigment, and I just sharpen my pencils with a little pencil sharpener, a metal one that you can get absolutely anywhere. No need to use a hand crank or an electric sharpener. So to begin with, I'm going to tape down my sketched image, and I have some glassine paper there to protect my hands from smearing. I have my pencils all sharpened and I'm using about a dozen, and I'm going to start by putting the background in. Now sometimes I use larger sponges, for instance foundation sponges. I use either round ones, or if I want to get into some tight corners I use a triangular one. But since this is just a 5x7 image, I'm going to be using some eye makeup applicators. You can get these of course in anywhere, you know, the usual big box stores. They're not really an art supply, so they're easy to get hold of, and I use circular motions to lay down lots of pigment. We're not really trying to do anything special here, we're just trying to lay in some colors, and as you can see from the reference material, we have a slightly blurry and out of focus background, so we're not going to concern ourselves with any of the edges. We're just laying down some color and we're going to blend all of this out as we go along. I like to get my backgrounds in first because it's so much easier to go up to the image, and then you can build out all of your detail and put the main focus in later. And this is especially true if you have an animal with fine fur, or you have some fins like this which require quite a bit of detail. So we're just going to go ahead and put the whole background in, and I'm using a kind of a dark charcoal, I think, to get a nice bit of contrast to allow all the algae and floating fish to pop for this scene. Now if you were working on a larger piece, you could also put your background in using soft pastel sticks. My image is about 5x7, so it really doesn't take long to lay in the color. Now one of the reasons I really like using pastel is it has a vibrancy that you don't really find with other mediums. It's a highly concentrated form of pigment, and it's compressed powder held together with just a very small amount of pigment. I'm using a blending stump here to just get some more smoother areas in, and I'm now starting to work on the fish. I haven't sketched in all of those detailed areas because I think that then we would be slavishly copying, which is not really necessary, from the reference material, and I think it can become too confining, can interfere with your creativity, and you can get bogged down by following every single line possible. So I think the best way possibly to work is to just keep looking at your reference material, and you can also blend a lot better when you are looking at the reference material and then also looking at your work. So we've got some nice reds going in and oranges, and I love this scene because it's just so colourful. I love colourful artwork. Almost everything that I do is either really detailed or really colourful, or both. And I'll include a link to the reference material, which is from a site called Pixabay, and if you're not familiar with Pixabay, it is a free reference site. Lots of artists use it, and you don't have to worry about copyright infringement, so you can go ahead and use this, and if you wanted to sell your image afterwards, my understanding is that it is also legal to do so. We don't need to concern ourselves at this point in time with any details at all. We're doing what's known as blocking in, which is just getting the basic shapes in, and then we're adding the color to it. But essentially what we're really doing is we are building up thin layers, and pastel matte is great for being able to accept many layers, and if you work with sanded paper, the same is true. I'm showing a close-up now of the fish eye, and there's all kinds of colors in here. It's a rather small eye, so you do want to sharpen your pencils if you haven't already to be able to get in as many details as possible. We've got some black, blue, purple, burgundy, red, orange, and also a surrounding yellow in here, and so tons of vibrancy here and lots going on. I'm putting the lips in here, and you can see that there is going to be a gap or a halo between the edge of the fish and the background. We can take care of this when we do another layer and we start refining things some more. So we're now just blending, working in some of that fascinating fish pattern in, and working on some of the fins. And as you can see, I'm taking advantage of this piece of glassine paper, and glassine is a little bit like parchment paper except with a sheen, and it's really great for avoiding smearing your work, especially if you're using dark colors. When you buy the pastel mat, whether it's in a sketch pad or in the larger sheets, you will find the glassine between each sheet of pastel mat, so don't throw those out. Instead, cut them into the required size that you need, and they are just indispensable for keeping everything clean. I usually just work on one piece of glassine for each artwork because they do contain and contaminate some of the colors, so you can't really recycle this. We're getting in even more details now on the surface, lots of contrast going in, and don't be afraid to put lots and lots of contrast in. We want some really dark darks and some really nice highlights in here. I'm using a blue tape which is called Clean Release as a masking tape, and this is a great tape to use because it doesn't rip your paper and it only has a small amount of glue, so it pulls away really easily, but yet it has enough glue not to let your pastel bleed into the background. And speaking of backgrounds, you'll see it's super important that the background went down first, as in the fish tail here, which is transparent. So we're putting in another layer on the background, and this stops any graininess and makes a nice smoother surface. These blending stumps are great. They're just rolled compressed paper. They come in a variety of sizes. You can get them in any art store or online, and I love them for creating really nice smooth backgrounds and just blending in all the colors together. And we're starting to work on the fins with just a black pastel pencil and finishing up some of the patterned surface. Once the fish is more or less complete, I carry on working on the background and then carry on refining the fish, looking at areas that can add, maybe I can add a bit more depth or just a little bit more intensity, checking my contrasts, checking my darkest darks. And here comes the most exciting bit, the border. I hope you've enjoyed watching this. I hope that you'll also have a go at doing a cichlid fish of your own, and thank you so much for watching my video. I'll see you in the next one.